Hey everyone, so it's been a while, but welcome back to another design video. Today's going to be something very special today, I think. It's going to be a little different than normal. We're going to be talking about both level shifters and human figures. So I guess you could say it's, human figure design in the context of level shifters. Because I wanted to do one more example and like some homework problems for level shifters based on what we did in the last video. I wasn't really sure what example I should do. I was thinking maybe a beetle or something. I thought no one really talks about human figure design, so I think I should do some of that now, and we'll figure out how do we use level shifters in the context of human figures. So today we're going to talk about like some proportional stuff, and then we'll talk about how do we get clothes, so male and female clothes, using level shifters, and then we'll figure out how to pack it, and how do we incorporate the limbs and stuff, the flaps and rivers and stuff. Yeah, so you can kind of think of this video as kind of like one last walkthrough of level shifters, and so from the idea sketch all the way to the finished model, crease pattern. So that's the main goal for today, but at the same time we'll also learn some human figure stuff. Now, I think in the future we might have like a whole entire series based on human figure design. Stuff like the hair and faces and stuff like that is very complicated, and I could probably spend like hours talking about how to do that. But just for today, we're only going to talk about the clothes, and then in the context of level shifters, and we'll do the faces later. Okay, so I think for today's video, I think we're going to do a simple female clothes and figure, and then for homework, your job is to make a simple male clothed figure. Does that sound about good? So let me talk about proportions a little bit. Now, I'm no drawing artist, but I do know enough just so that I can fold origami at good proportions. So the way proportions work is we measure in terms of proportional to the head. So no matter how tall or short you are, your head will be about proportional to your body size. And so for women, we say that they're about 7 heads tall. So when they're standing up like this, they're about 7 heads tall. And men, on average, are a little bit taller, like 7.5 heads tall. And then everything else is in terms of heads. So for example, the arms go from about roughly here to here. So that's 3 heads in length. So we would say the arm is 3 heads long. The leg is about, what, like 4 heads long. And then, now again, this kind of goes back to the face shaping stuff, but we usually say that a face is about 2 units tall. It just makes things a little bit easier for us when we're packing stuff. So you see on the graph paper, I've drawn the head as like 2 units for both figures. And that way, we can convert this proportions into a box pleated tree really easily. So for example, we'll say, okay, the head is about 2 units tall, and then the arms are about, was it 3 times 2, so like 6 units long and stuff. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but you get the idea, hopefully. Now, in terms of level shifting, the clothes and stuff, that makes it really easy for us as well. Like, for example, if we want to get the shoulder part out here, well, that's 2 units away from the center line. It's 2 units away from the center line, so we could say that this out here would be axial plus 2. Female clothes has a lot more variety. Like guys, we usually just wear like, what, t-shirt, pants, jacket, something like that. Female clothes, we have a little bit more variety. So I'm going to draw something today. So what kind of outfit should we do? It's kind of like playing Barbie. So I think pants and shorts work on both sides. I'm going to do a skirt, I think, because it's kind of more unique to the female figure. So one mistake I see all the time is we think, okay, here's the halfway point, and we always say like, okay, the pants start here, and then the belt, or like, the belt of the pants go there, start here, and everything below is pants slash skirt slash whatever, and everything above is shirt or whatever. But the reason why sometimes we think that is because, the shirt sometimes stretches down. But really, the waist, this is where the legs meet. This, at this 3.5 mark here. 3.5 head mark. So this is way too low. So usually for pants, we'll say that the pants start here. And then for skirts, it's even higher. So skirts, they go like a little bit higher on the waist. So over, like the skirt will start about up here at the, 2.5 So somewhere in between here, the skirt will start, basically. Same thing for guys. So instead of starting the pants here, at this mark, you want to start it up a little bit higher. So the pants usually start around here. So that's right, the legs are longer than the chest. Sometimes even higher. It's like somewhere around here for the pants. So I think we don't really want partials. Partials are kind of annoying. So I'm just going to say the skirt is a little bit higher than normal. I think that's okay. So skirts will start about up here. And then where does the skirt end? Well, I don't know much about fashion, but I do know that back in middle school they said your skirts or shorts or pants or something cannot go above where your hands meet. So your hands are like about here. So anything above this would be scandalous. So anything below here might be a little too long and awkward. So, well, anywhere between here or here. I will go with the more conservative, modest, and say the skirt goes about this long. And also, what's nice about that is we can shorten it later. We can just fold it up a little bit and it'll be a little bit better. So, here's what I'm thinking. Let me just try to draw the skirt for now. And then, we'll put some texture on it. Which, fun fact, by the way, if you Google box pleating, you might find some skirt stuff, because box pleating is actually a sewing trick. And not only origami is also related to sewing, and so there's something about box pleating your skirt. Like, I don't know much about it, but I know it's a thing. Okay, now for the top half, let's do like a blouse or so. So a collared shirt. And we can like the shoulder goes about, the shoulder is not exactly at this one head part. We have some height for the neck, but we don't want partial, so let's just say that the shoulders are up here, and then we can shape it a little bit different. So I'm gonna say, here's the shirt, blouse, something like that. So it looks weird, but that's because it's not shaped. It's just kind of like the raw, what we want it to look like. And here, I'll round out the corners just so you can get an idea. Something like this is going on, and then the arms will come out from here and so on, but we're not going to worry about that yet. But now we're just talking about just the clothes, because that's where we're interested in level shifters. You might remember a few episodes back ago where I gave you an assignment like something like this, and I drew the figure and I asked you to make this out of level shifters. And a lot of you guys participated in this in the Discord and actually went and folded it, and it seems actually like a lot of you guys understood it. So once we can get to this figure, I think a lot of us are well off on turning this into a folded model. So let me just, this little zigzag thing is not very practical. Let me draw the skirt in a kind of like this, so we can figure out how to fold it. It looks something like this. And then for the skirt, we could draw this like slope of 4 thingy, but weird slopes are annoying, so I'm just gonna say something like this, and then later we can mount and fold it behind. Does that make sense? So I'm just gonna draw them like this for now, and then we'll try to figure out a way to make this box pleated. Get it? The box, the pleats on the skirt. So we'll figure that out later. Okay, and then obviously the neck continues up from there, and then the legs continue up from there, and then we'll figure out how do we make 2 leg flaps and then the arm flaps coming out. How do we figure all that out? How do we make that work with the level shifter? So we'll figure that out later. So for now, let's see if we can figure out how to fold this shape. And for that, we are going to need a 16 by 16 grid. Before we start, I highly encourage you to fold along. That way you can kind of get a feel for the structures once again. And also, after this, we'll have like a whole new model. So you'll have folded a nice human figure, which is cool. So go ahead and pause the video if you need, fold your grid, and then we will continue. Okay, so just like in the video a few videos ago, what do we start with? So we usually start with just pleating up the whole thing into an accordion. So let me do that right now. And I'm going to open it down the middle. So here's my 16 by 16 grid, pleated up like an accordion and so on. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So if you want, you can pause the video and try to solve it yourself. Like, I know when I gave it to you guys as homework, many of you guys just figured it out. So this one, I think you might be able to get some distance. I don't know, but either way, if you want to pause the video now, I'm going to show you how we can do it. So let's start with this part. So I'm just going to say this top thing is only 2. We'll leave 2 units for the neck. Just the neck and head we'll talk about later, but just for the purpose of this, I'm just going to leave 2 units. So I'm going to form this as a pleat. I think I might have talked about this before, but this is largely intuitive. You can gain this over experience. So I'm going to pleat it. I'm going to pleat it in such a way that it leaves 2 units above the pleat. So this 4th one will be mountain. 4th unit from the top is mountain. 3rd unit from the top is valley. And then when we pleat it, oh, careful. So that when we pleat it, now we see we have our neck part on top, 2 units above. Does that make sense? So actually, yeah, I think what's nice about the tracing paper is you can kind of see it through the layers. You can pretty obviously tell what's going on here. You can tell that it's a 1 unit pleat, not a 2 unit pleat or something like that. So I think that's nice. Okay, the next step is, well, how do we get this thing sticking out? How do we get this, like, yeah, how do we get, this is axial plus 2, right? So how do we get that? Well, this is axial plus 1. This is my axis, by the way. So I'll just draw down the line. This is the axis. And so this is axial plus 1, and then out here would be axial plus 2, and so on. So it's a pretty simple shift, right? We just shift it up. Right, we see that. So this created our right angle that we want. However, the problem is, what about this, like, I don't know, this is the collar? I don't know what you call it, but like this button down part, this central seam down the middle, how do we get that? Well, we do see that we can fold it in, and that will give us that seam. And if we wanted to, we could fold this back, and that will give us like the Y shape. Alternatively, instead of making, we could just, here's the alternative. So, alternative is we could do the other type of shifter. We can do this other type of shifter. That way when we fold it in, you can really start to see that Y shape forming. You see what I mean? And then we can do the next pleat behind it to make the right angle thing. So let's shift this pleat behind it. Let's shift this one up. I see, all right, like this, right? And now we can kind of see the top part of the shirt is forming. Hopefully that's obvious how that's working. And so this looks pretty good, and I think we can repeat this on the other side. So we're going to be shifting these 2 pleats up. Right, so this one shift up to form like the Y shape thing. And then the pleat behind it, we shift up the other way to form the right angle thing. So in total, we have something that looks like this. So now we can really see this top part is really coming into shape. And a quick note, we don't have this seam right here. We don't really have that, but we do have one here. So to get rid of that, the simple fix, just open it up and we see we got this kind of sawhorse thing. This is what Lang calls a sawhorse molecule from circle packing. It looks like that. So we can just sink that whole thing down. It makes everything nice and clean. Okay, and that's about it. So that's good for the top half. I think that's really nice. So do you kind of see how this works? And now you can do this. This structure is good for male clothes as well as female clothes. You can make like a dress shirt for a guy or something, and then like make this collar, stuff like that. It's just very versatile overall. So hopefully you learned something from this video. Now we need to figure out how we can get this sloped thing. Now I said we don't really like slopes, but in this case, it's not too bad. So how do we do that? Well, we have this horizontal pleat here. So let's make that pleat 3 units below this pleat. So 3 units below here, let's make a pleat. So here's the top of this. Let's count 3 units and make a pleat. So let me just show you through all the layers. It's gonna look something like this. Through the layers, right? And then once we have that, then we can like swivel it and stuff like that. But we need to pleat through the layers. That's how the level shifters work. Always, or sorry, yeah, you know what I mean. So let me pull the thing apart. It's just enough so that we can make a pleat. Okay, now that we have this, there's a few things we need to do. First of all, we're going to make this arctan 2, which by the way just means slope of 2. This thing, we want to make this slope. But we also, the other thing we want to do is, we don't, like, look at this, right? It's kind of weird, right? We want to get it back to this normal pleat, zigzaggy pleat structure. So we need to reset this. So we need to make this mountain and this valley. So we need to untwist it. So how do we do that? Yeah, it's quite simple. So basically, if I swing this whole thing over, we see that this center line is now axial plus 2, right? And then we just want to shift that down. And if we shift that down, then everything will become normal again. So watch. Let me shift it down. Like this. And so now I have rearranged the pleats a little bit better. Just a little bit easier to work with than to work with on the skirt. It did allow this thing to swing free, but usually it's better to have more freedom than to have things more locked up. Which, by the way, was not a societal message or political message. Now let's make this slope of 2 thing. So let's pre-crease the slope first. So let me make a slope of 2 like this. And then on the back side. Okay. And let's get ready to get this thing shifted down. So like this. And then also I'm going to grab this part and pull this up. So like this. And you can see through the layers there's something starting to happen there. Which is nice about the tracing. You see how something's starting to slope behind the layer? So it's already getting itself ready to transition. And in fact, because this transition is not too bad actually. You see what's going on? if you have everything else prepared, like if you have this part prepared and you have this bottom part prepared, it will kind of just transition itself. Maybe not super cleanly, but it will work. And if you do super clean like this, and you unfold it, you will find that these diagonal lines are actually a slope of 1/2 to complement the slope of 2. So that'll be more evident when we draw it in the crease pattern, which we'll do later. But hopefully that works. So all that we're going to repeat on the other side. So I'm going to rearrange these layers, rearrange this thing, and then make the slope of 2, and I will meet you there. Okay, so this is looking very good. This is basically what we got for the top half of our skirt, the outfit basically. Top half of the outfit. So what's next? Well, now we need to make this pleat. So we need to widen it. We need it to come out, right? We need this part to come out axial plus 2. So what does that mean? That means we need another pleat. And this pleat is supposed to meet up with this horizontal line here. So basically I'll show you through the layer. So basically we're going to do a pleat like this. And once we have that, then we can kind of shift things out a little bit like that. Something like that. Okay, so let's do that. So again, as before, I'm going to pleat, open up the layers just enough so that I can pleat. It's not hard at all for us to shift it outwards, so we can easily do a little, axial plus 2 pleat out like this. Right, it's not hard. The challenge is being able to make sure that we have enough enough room for these vertical. I'm just gonna have it. I'm gonna start in the middle. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to make a pleat that's kind of just standing up in the middle. So here's what I mean by that. I'm just gonna grab this one on the left. I'm gonna grab this stuff up here so it doesn't move. So I've got my finger in here like this. And then I'm just going to pull until it comes out. Like this. And so now I have this pleat that's standing up in the middle. And I can squash this to get these half unit textures. So if I fold this in half and then I squash it, now we have a little bit more texture, right? Okay, so if I want to make the pleats all going in the next direction, the next step I can do is actually sink this in. So I'll do something like, so I'll just sink it under the layer, so something like this. Like that. And so now we definitely have a much better pleaty texture for the skirt. Okay. Now let's start widening out. So let me pull up this next one. So I need my tweezers because this other one's getting in the way of where my finger would go. Here we go. So I'm going to pull it up and make this one an axial plus 2. So, or a plus 1 shifter, right? And I find that this one I could also squash. So if I squash it, it would look like this, more or less. But if I squash it, that means I won't have this full width thing. So I will have to actually shift up the one behind it, just to make sure that the skirt is wide enough. Okay, and now I can do the same procedure as before to squash the thing in half to get this half pleat textures. Basically, here's what we have. So we have these two pleats were shifted up on this side. On this side, we only need to shift it up once. I'm just going to say that. It's probably fine. Okay, so overall, here is our dress, or our skirt. So we managed to make this top part, right? We just did some shifters to get this top shirt part, and then we did some more shifters to be able to get this bottom wider skirt part with some vertical stripes for the pleats. And then it's going to be about this long. So it's going to look something like this, and then we can shape this into a skirt, curve it around. We can also shape this part on top to make this a little bit more 3D also, something like that, more or less. So overall, this is looking pretty good. It's not shaped, so it doesn't quite look realistic yet, but it's what we need. So now the question is, how do we convert this into a packing? Well, if you remember from one of the videos a while ago, the first thing we need to do is look at the side and figure out where are all the pleats located. So let me try to get the side view visible. And I will draw it on the paper. So I don't know how well you can see, but each pleat is going to be represented as a 1 unit flap basically, and each thing in between is a river. So for example, this part above the pleat, that's 4 units. So let me draw a 4 unit line, 4 units, and then we have our pleat, so that's a 1 unit line. And then we have a 1 unit river in between these two pleats, so there's 1 unit in the second pleat, and then there's 2 units in between the second and third pleat, right? So that's 2 unit river. Then we have the third pleat, and then now this is 1 unit too long. The skirt was supposed to be 4 units long, so this shirt should have cut off right here. So this is really just a 3 unit river to finish. So this is our tree basically. We need to pack a river with 2 of these center flaps, river, and then these 2 center flaps, and then another center flap. And that's going to be the part of the packing that represents the skirt. The other thing we need to know is how wide is each center flap. So let's start. So remember, each center flap, a center flap is basically a pleat. A pleat is basically a center flap in this context. So how wide does each one have to be? See how at this point is able to fold free, right? But if I try to unfold it here, it would be locked. That sort of makes sense. So at this valley, I'm able to fold it free. At these valleys, they're locked in the level shifter. So I want to figure out what's the distance between the first free valleys. So over here is the other free valley on the other side. I want to count how many units in between. So here's 1 pleat, 2 pleats, 3 pleats, 4 pleats, 5 pleats, 6 pleats. Right, 6 pleats in between. And each pleat is 2 units, right? 1, 2. So this first pleat needs to be 12 units long. So it's going to be a center flap that's 12 units long. Like that. And then here's the ridges, so it's a center flap, right? Okay. And the second one is basically the same thing, right? It's going to be the same thing. It's got basically the same width, right? So the second one, here's the river. Here's this 1 unit river, right? You see that? 1 unit river. And then below that is going to be our next 1 unit flap. And I'll draw all this in Origami, by the way, but while I have the folded model, I have this. Okay, then we have our 2 unit river. And then, how long is this pleat? Well, the same thing basically. It actually also happens to be 12 units long, which is a great coincidence. It makes things nice and easy. So basically, this is our packing. So we have, let me just draw the rivers a little bit more clearly. And the rivers, of course, could go bend down and up, whatever. But basically, we have this 1 unit flap that's 12 units long, 1 unit river, a 1 unit flap that's also 12 units long, a 2 unit river, and then a 1 unit flap that's 12 units long. And then we'll have this this thing at the bottom and this thing at the top and so on. But let's talk about what the tree and flaps and stuff should look like for the limbs before we get too far. So I'm going to draw it in this blue pen, the flaps for the limbs. So let's start with the legs. So the legs, they meet up here at this point here. So we might think, okay, well, I want my legs to be, you know, here is what is this, 8.5? What's the length here? This is 4 units apart. So you might think, okay, I want my legs to be, 8 units tall, something like that. But here's the kicker. Let me show you something that I've learned from experience. So if you pack, so let's take a look at this packing here. It's a simple, just a quick lie stretch. This packing looks like it's two 4-unit flaps, right? Two 4-unit flaps. But when you fold them and you kind of squash it like this, how long are the flaps actually? You only get 3 units of length. You see how there's only 3 units? And the legs look like they meet at this 3-unit mark. So we're actually gonna have to make our legs a little bit longer. We actually need them to meet up here. And we need our flaps to meet up here in order that the legs can actually swing free at this point. Which of course will be under the skirt, so no one will really see it. But just structurally, it might be a little bit easier to shape. So 2 9-unit flaps, so these are each 9, right? Okay, and then now we're starting to see kind of our skirt stuff. So we know that this is a pleat, right? So this is a 1-unit flap for the pleat, and then 3 units for the skirt, right? And then let's draw the right above that, there was this pleat. So it's kind of back to, I'm just basically transferring on what we had here. Here's the 2-unit river thing, and then 1-unit river, and then it goes up. So this is the top of the shirt, and then up here is the neck, something. So we don't really know what's gonna happen up here for the head, because that's a whole nother topic of another video. But for now, I'll just leave it as this. Now the question is, where do the arms come from? So the arms, they end around here, and you might be tempted to say, okay, well, arm to shoulder is from here to here. Right, this is 6 units. So you might be tempted to say, okay, let's just make it 6 units long. But the thing is, this is also something that I've learned from experience. The arms actually come out of the center part, right? They don't start here. The flap doesn't start here. The flap starts here. So really, how long is our thing? How long is this length from the center out to this hand? It's actually going to be about, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 units long. And you can start it from here or from here, but it just has to be 8 units long. So I'm going to start it from here. Let's say 8 units long. So 8-unit arms, 9-unit legs. Actually, I think 8 is a little bit too long. No, because if I let me just draw the other side. If I do something like this is only 7. So right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So maybe we'll change that to 7-unit arms. I think that's a little bit better. Maybe for the men we'll say 8 units for the men, but for women we can do 7 units. And it might seem a little bit long, alright, especially compared to like this tiny little torso. But this will give us room to shape hands and toes and feet, or shoes or gloves or whatever you need. So this is our tree pretty much. I will draw this again in Origami, just so it's a little bit more neat, but I just wanted to show you how do I get these leg lengths based on the proportions of the figure. So I'm going to transfer all of this stuff onto Origami. Also going to transfer this thing onto Origami, and then we're going to draw from there and figure out what to do. Okay, so here we are. I've basically transferred over everything we had from the graph paper onto Origami. So, for example, we have our, this is the level shifter thing, the whole thing, and then the tree for that with, the pleats and the rivers. Here's the full tree with all the limbs and everything. The folded figure, this yellow thing. So, if you drag it over, like it fits pretty well, right? Decently well proportionally. And then I kind of drew out what do we start with? So we start with, these center flaps that were 12 units long, right? So you measure it as 12 units long, and then the rivers. And for the skirt, we don't quite know what's going to happen, but we do know we kind of want the paper's edge to be 3 units below this, right? That's what this 3 unit thing is. So 3 units below. So that's where we're at, and now we need to pack the rest of the stuff. So let me move this out a little bit, get us some more space. Okay, now we need to pack legs. So let me also uncover this. So the legs are 9 unit flaps, right? This is 9 unit flaps, and it's coming out of this joint where the bottom pleat meets the skirt. So it's coming out of here. So it's coming out of like this point right here, this like somewhere around here, right? So we need to pack that. So basically, I guess another way to think of it, the 9 unit legs need to be under this 2 unit river. It needs to be under this river. So we could, go ahead and draw in our ridge, something like that. So something like that. You see what I mean? But the thing is, like, it's too low. You see how it's sticking down below this edge? We kind of want our edge to be right here, and at the bottom of the skirt. So what can we do? Well, if we can move this river up, we'll have a little bit more room. So let's do that. Let's bend the river up. Oh, by the way, and then let me just draw the halfway line. So the model is going to be symmetrical, but here's the halfway line. Yeah. So now we can move this. We can move this. Yeah, we can move this leg flap. Up like that. So now it's technically below the river. It's below this 2 unit river. And then we can expand this flap to fill in the space. And this will basically be a skirt. So the skirt's basically a 3 unit flap, I guess you could say. Okay. So that's looking good, but this river is kind of a problem because we have this 1 unit river that's getting in the way of this 2 unit river. So if we bend up our 1 unit river, maybe that would work. So let's try that. So let's try bending it up. So now it's going upwards, right? And the 2 unit river does not have enough room to go through. It needs to make it all the way up. So let's give it some extra horizontal room. So wait, let's move it over a unit. And now this center flap can be expanded. So remember, we started them out as 12 units wide. They can be wider than that, right? It's always okay to have extra pleats. They just can't be shorter than 12 units. That makes a little more sense. Okay, and let's see. So now we have both of our rivers going up. The legs are underneath the river, so this looks okay for now. But now we need to pack the arms. So the arms go above the river, above this 1 unit river and above this 2 unit river, right? So we need to start bending these rivers down. So what we can do is we can bend them like this. And now the rivers are going horizontal. We have plenty of room up here for the arm to go. So let's start working on that. So let me extend this edge up. So this arm is 7 units. So let's start packing a 7 unit. We'll do an edge flap for now, just see what happens. So 7 unit edge flap. Looks like this. So there's our 7 unit edge flap. And then now we have this neck, this 4 unit neck, and then some stuff for the head. So 4 unit river. 4 unit river, so that looks something like this, with a ridge here, and then a few flaps for the head. So, again, heads are complicated, but for now we can just simplify it and just say these 2 center flaps. The one for the face, we're going to do a blank face, basically. So this one flap is a blank face, and then the basic hair. So that's it. We've got everything we need on our packing. Yeah, so we have all our parts down. I mean, this river, this river can do whatever it needs to do. It can go straight up to the edge or whatever. We might have to fill in some blanks or something. But we have everything we need for our packing. We have all our parts. Now let's measure what our square would be. So let me actually just reflect this over. So reflect it. Now, what is the square length? So this is it says 36 by 36. So our full square would look something like this. Let me extend this up so it's 36. So now it's 36 tall. Oops. Now it's 36. So this is our square basically. Now what do you notice about this? Now basically all of this region up here, this is completely wasted. We don't have any use for it. Now female hair takes up a lot of paper. So we probably could use this for hair. Our hair takes up a lot of, more than you'd expect. We could do that. We have this vertical space, right? Like if we wanted to, we could easily move it in and shrink it vertically. But that would no longer be a square. But if we can shrink it horizontally, if we can save our horizontal space, then we could shave off an equal amount of vertical space and reduce our square. So, but it looks pretty packed, right? How do we increase our horizontal space? How do we do that? So, I think now's as good a time as ever to break out the box pleating studio. So, here's what I have basically. Now, I have not explained how to use box pleating studio. I find it quite intuitive, right? You just draw in your tree here, and then each one will correspond to a flap. So here's the 7-unit flap, and then you can move them around. So kind of like what we did, except you don't have quite as much control. That's basically how box pleating studio works. It's not too difficult. By the way, I'll have a link to this application if you want to use this. It's very straightforward. Unlike Origami, the UI is actually pretty usable, so you should have no trouble with it. But what's cool about box pleating studio is that it can calculate the Pythagorean stretches for us. So you see right now, if I try to decrease the width, it won't let me. Right? If I decrease the height, it will let me for sure. But that's we have plenty of height, but we're tight on width. We don't have enough horizontal space. So what we can actually do is, I'll just show you how to do this. I won't explain how the Pythagorean stretches work in this episode, but stay tuned for the next class. So we can actually shrink these. Oops. And now we can move in our legs a little bit, and it will form a Pythagorean stretch for us. And now that we move them in, now we have enough room to shrink the width, because the legs were our limiting factor. So, and then we can also shrink the height like that. And so now we've got a much more efficient packing, right? 32 grids are much more nicer than 36, right? No one really likes holding 36, but 32 is a nice even grid. Yeah, so that's basically it. Now the rest is kind of just, you could go and fold this and try, but I know from experience the face is not going to turn out super well. I actually think we should add some width to the head flaps, at least 2 units, so like that. And then the arms are good. Yeah, our packing is looking pretty good. Now remember, the key part of this lesson was just figuring out how to get these level shifters incorporated. So that's what we did earlier with the with the bending the rivers around and stuff like that. So that's the main part of this episode, this class. The rest I kind of just did on my own. So I kind of did the filler space and stuff. So here's my packing. I think this is pretty solid. So we have some extra hair flaps, and then the arms, and then the legs use the Pythagorean stretch, and then all of our level shifting stuff we know will work. Okay, so many of you might not be actually used to folding from packing, and so I think it might be helpful if we draw the CP first. So what's cool about this is that since we did all the steps, here's what we can do. So let me bring this over so it's a little bit closer. Okay. So what we can do is we can actually pretty much just line up this thing exactly on top of our packing. So watch this. Here's what I mean. So let me unselect this actually. So here's this pleat, right, mountain valley, and around the center of the pleat is the mountain right here. So I'm going to line this up with, let me use this circle. So here's the center of the pleat. I'm going to line this up with the center of this pleat, so like right there, okay? So let me move them. I'll just move it right on top. And now we have to do a little bit of fixing, but pretty much everything will work out. So let's erase all the black lines. Okay, and then this thing sticking out on top, we can get rid of that. These things are sticking out. Okay, but we're off to a good start. So then we can, let me turn off these. Now we can extend this stuff. Yeah, we can just extend the lines, and it all fits in really nicely. So let's see. Let me keep going. Okay, and then no. So then we can use our G tool to fill in these big areas. So this is a valley. So right, this is valley. Right. So then the next one is mountain. So we start with mountain. Okay, then it fills in all of the G's, right? And then we fill in this stuff. By the way, I don't know if I showed you, but we can toggle the auxiliary stuff with this blue button on top. But yeah, okay, what else do we have? So let's fill in this area. Let me just fill this in. So it starts with a mountain on the edge, like that, right? Okay, let me turn these off again. Oops. Yeah, so then you can also turn off everything else with this button with the red, blue, black. But I want to turn off the auxiliaries. So let's use this one, the alternating MV. So fix up some of the stuff here, the ridges. So yeah, basically I didn't have to remove any of that stuff that I did. You might have to add a little bit to transition them, but basically it just copy and pasted really nicely into our packing because we did all the steps. Yeah, so I'm kind of visualizing this stuff in my head. Normally you could just fold it and then see, but I have enough experience that I can kind of just do this. Let's add this hinge here. What else do we need? Okay, now let's check our CAMV. Okay, these are all the points we need to fix. So this one is this is just a hinge for the arm, so let's fix that. Okay, this one is a mountain valley thing. We'll fix that. This one is a hinge for the pleat. Okay, this one is a mountain valley thing. What's going on here? Okay, so this part's kind of a weird transition, and you'll see it when you fold it in real life, but it's not terribly difficult. We can just go something like this. Yeah, and then you know, so the rest of this stuff up here is pretty standard box pleating stuff. So okay, well, anyways, I think you get the idea. Hopefully, I know I went kind of fast, but hopefully you kind of understood how we kind of, you know, combined all the level shifter stuff onto our packing of just, you know, we started off with just flaps and rivers, and now we have this, our little dress piece combined onto it. Okay, so here I have the collapsed base, and I actually did the level shifters on one side but not the other, just to show you. So you see how on one side I have the center flaps kind of turned into pleats, sorta. Yeah, so then and we have enough room on the pleats to shift everything up, so it works very nicely. And we see the legs are meeting up here under the skirt, right? And then the arms are coming out here, and they're long enough. They don't look super short, right? They look pretty proportionally decent, right? The head looks okay. So I will go ahead and shape it just for the sake of having a finished model, but and maybe I'll show you a few tips just so you don't get super lost. But the idea, remember that the main idea of this this video was so you can get a feel for how the level shifting works in junction with the flaps and stuff that you already know how to do. So here we have the finished model, and I spent quite a lot of time shaping. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Yeah, the hair especially turned out really well, which is kind of unrelated to the topic of today's class, which is level shifters, but yeah, I learned a little bit about doing hair. So let me move the hand out of the way. As you can see, we have the dress that we had. So we have the shirt plus the skirt. Proportions look pretty nice, right? Doesn't look like, if anything, perhaps legs are a little bit too short, maybe. But otherwise, maybe it should just look a little bit younger than we expected. But at any rate, it looks pretty good, and I think we successfully did our level shifters. Now let's talk about this video's homework. So this video's homework is not as much homework, more so than like a full-on project. Like in the past, the homeworks were just like, oh yes, you know, find a solution for this one level shifter, right? This time, your homework is more of like a project. So I want you to give it a shot, and I want you to try and design the male figure. So I did the female figure in this video. Now your task is to try to do the male figure, which I've drawn the proportions here, or you can Google them, right? You can probably find better things on Google than what I have here. I think you should have everything you need to know in order to do this, right? I haven't taught you how to do faces yet, but you can kind of just do this. So, by the way, this is the 2-unit center flap, and just kind of round out the corners. And then the center flap above it becomes bangs, right? So the male hair is not too different, so you can probably just copy off what I did in this video. Remember, you want to start with what are the level shifters, so kind of draw out a plan of what the shifters you need. Now, to be honest, you could go for the shirtless. I think the muscles are actually decently easy to do. Here's an example if you need inspiration. If this is from the, this is my shirtless guy with the stick. This guy's crease pattern should be in the description, so if you really get stuck how to do this, you might be able to figure out from that crease pattern. You can also do a jacket. So like this guy, he has a jacket. Basically the way this one works is it's a shifter that goes out +4 and then folds back around and looks like a jacket. It's pretty nice. So those are what I recommend, but if you have some crazy other idea, feel free to go for it. For the male pants, level shifting the pants out is a little bit different than what you might expect. Yeah, they're a little bit different. Now, basically, I can't teach you every single trick. I showed you like one example here with like the skirt and stuff. I can't show you, I don't have enough time to show all the tricks everywhere, but hopefully this video was enough to show you how to figure out the tricks for yourself. So hopefully you can figure out, you know enough to figure out how to do the jacket for yourself, how to do the pants for yourself. So that's my goal for this video. And I think you know enough to do. So remember, you want to do your shifters for the clothes you need, and then figure out how does that work around with the legs and arms and the tree using the proportions, right? And then you can pack everything using BP Studio or Origami, and then fold it up, shape it, which shaping is pretty hard, but if you have everything you need, if you plan it out, it shouldn't be too bad. And then you shape it and you're done. So hopefully you'll be able to make some sort of male figure, or at least somehow use level shifters in some practical full figure way. And of course, if you get stuck anywhere, you have any questions about anything, the design server Discord is linked in the description. If you want to go there, ask some questions, ask for help, I'll be there to help you out anytime about anything. In the next episode, so if you remember, we did some Pythagorean stretches in the legs, which you can't see, but we did if you remember. So the next few episodes, actually, we're going to talk about more in detail about Pythagorean stretches and box pleating studio. Like, what are they actually doing? What is the purpose of them? How do you calculate them by hand? How do you use BP Studio? What's the benefit of them? All that stuff we'll talk about pretty soon. Okay, so make sure to stay tuned for that. Subscribe to make sure you don't miss those videos when they come out. And leave a like if this video helped you, because that would help me as well. And I will keep making these videos for you. Alright, so have fun, good luck with your design, and I will see you later.